7 years ago, the citizens were tired of being suppressed and decided to revolt. They attacked some cities. The news shocked the emperor when he found that not only his local bureaucrats were deleted, but also the armory and granaries were raided to provide some relief to the people. As a result, the emperor ruthlessly decided to dispatch 50,000 of soldiers led by his 12 elite guards with an unrivaled set of kills. Dao Ma is one of those guards who specializes in completing secret missions. He covers up things that shouldn't exist or even erases those who shouldn't be breathing. The emperor needed the world to forget the 150,000 people who revolted and the Huaiyan group who instigated it. Dao Ma couldn't refuse his orders, so he followed them, giving all of those people a chance to breathe from the hole in their necks. It didn't matter if it was men, kids, women, merchants, or commoners. Dao Ma sliced them all in a single night without thinking twice. When the sun started to rise, Dao Ma searched among the corpses for the mastermind who instigated everything. His face was filled with fatigue and doubt to the point where he couldn't look at what he has done anymore. Months passed and Dao Ma decided to resign his position because he still couldn't find the culprit. As a result, the emperor decided to silence him by branding him a traitor and putting a bounty on him and his son. A wandering swordsman named Dao Ma is camping with his little boy, Xiao Kai. Xiao Kai asks how long they will need to repay the businessman Mo's debt and how they ended up in debt in the first place. Dao Ma explains that the debt was because he likes gambling and the slots are telling him to bet more, then tells Xiao Kai to stop asking so many questions. Dao Ma goes to a bar and introduces himself to the wanted criminals seated there. He says he has come for this bald bozo's bounty, which is around 800 V-bucks. The leader is not fazed by this. Dao Ma even adds that if they tripled the bounty, he would act like he didn't see them. Xiao Kai jumps from behind Dao Ma, introducing himself too. The leader mocks Dao Ma, saying he has no aura, his fit is whack, and Riz levels are negative especially, with a bald kid by his side. He's just not him, yet he dares to challenge the Xiangzi gang. The gang members start surrounding them. Dao Ma smirks, saying it's a pity because he thought they could be friends. The leader says it's not mockery. He has 8 skilled men, and making them fight Dao Ma is basically a hydrogen bomb versus a coughing baby. He laughs and orders his men to close the door and windows so no one can see them. Dao Ma says it's a pity they have to resort to violence. The leader laughs, saying Dao Ma better have Obamacare because they ain't in Canada. Dao Ma tells Xiao Kai to close his eyes and count as usual. Xiao Kai asks what number to count to, and Dao Ma tells him to count every decimal of pi up to the very last. Xiao Kai starts at 3.14 and starts counting, and Dao Ma says that's perfect, promising that all the ugly redditors will be down before he reaches the 50th decimal. The leader is offended by what Dao Ma called them and slams his hands on the table in anger. To his surprise, Dao Ma quickly stabs his hands on the table with a knife. The leader yells in agony as he loses 10,000 aura points, and his men start attacking Dao Ma. One man tries to cut Dao Ma, but he stabs that one and nods at another one coming from his left. Using his leg, Dao Ma performs a Jackie Chan maneuver at 2 more attackers coming up behind him, then slams one's head into the table. Another man gets too close with a sword, and Dao Ma makes sure that the guy can never goon with 2 hands. The leader calls out for his sword, which one of his men throws to him, resulting in a friendly fire. Dao Ma catches it and uses it to stab the leader's forearm, making him scream in agony. Meanwhile, Xiao Kai is already at the 39th decimal. Dao Ma throws his bag of swords at the leader and then jumps from his seat onto the table, driving the knife deeper into the leader's hand. The leader orders his men to attack. They all bum rush in, but Dao Ma effortlessly uses his sword to mercilessly defeat each one of the goons as they draw close to the table. By the 49th decimal from Xiao Kai, Dao Ma takes the knife from the leader's hand and throws it at one of the men's heads, successfully taking out everyone. He asks Xiao Kai why he skipped the 45th decimal. The boy just laughs, saying it's not like the fans are gonna notice. Dao Ma kicks the leader off the table and jumps down to finish off the last man who is still breathing. The leader begins begging for mercy, promising to triple the bounty, but Dao Ma says there will be no more mercy, and that the leader doesn't even have the stack to pay him. The leader then offers him a bag of 500 Robux instead, saying it's more than triple. Dao Ma accepts it, pulling his sword from the leader's arm. As he prepares to leave, the leader asks how he found them so easily since the Xiangzi gang has always been elusive. Dao Ma shocks him by saying he read the manga. Dao Ma then leaves with Xiao Kai, who is all smiles. Dao Ma and Xiao Kai ride on a horse through a desert, with Dao Ma shielding Xiao Kai's face from the dust with his cloak. He assures Xiao Kai that they will be at Chang'an soon. Xiao Kai asks why they are going there, and Dao Ma says it's because that's where the plot is. They reach a mountain pass filled with vultures feeding on corpses scattered across the road. Dao Ma notices the bodies are of men called Rakshasas. Suddenly, Dao Ma urges his horse to run as some men start chasing them. The men shoot arrows at them, determined to catch Dao Ma as their new prey. As some men get closer, Dao Ma pulls a sword that makes his enemies fall off their horses, causing them to fall off their horses. But the men keep chasing them. Dao Ma tells Xiao Kai that the horse is exhausted and instructs him to hold on tight because if the horse falls from exhaustion, they will have to take the men's horses. Xiao Kai understands and holds on tightly. As the men catch up, Dao Ma manages to slay 3 more of them. He urges his horse, who somehow can understand English, to keep going and not give up until they escape. The bandits are still close on their tail when Xiao Kai alerts Dao Ma about a group ahead. Dao Ma doesn't slow down. Instead, he charges faster toward the group, who are aiming arrows at him. He then urges his horse to defy the laws of physics as the other group releases their arrows. The horse enables V-cheats 1 and jumps so high, the arrows hit the bandits behind them. The group with the arrows turns out to be allies. A lady removes her hood and she's a 10 out of 10 baddie, who tells Dao Ma that her father has a side quest waiting for him and that there is someone Dao Ma has to meet. The lady's name is Ayuya. As she and her lady soldiers escort Dao Ma back to the town, some men call her name, trying to get her attention as she rides in. Dao Ma notices there are some new faces in the town. Ayuya explains that because of a special guest, they had to get more woman power because, they're women. Dao Ma remarks that a lot has changed since he left, but Ayuya says not everything changes, referring to him, which he didn't get, and Dao Ma insists that everything changes. He asks who the special guest is, and Ayuya says he is weirder than Dao Ma. Her father calls him Jai Shilling. They head to a secret chamber, which isn't a secret anymore since they just showed us, where her father, Chief Mo, is waiting with the special guest. Mo greets Dao Ma, acknowledging that he must have suffered on his journey back. But Dao Ma says it was no big deal because he's built different. Then Jai Shilling starts talking, saying that Dao Ma is a title for a cavalry guard in Sui. Dao Ma comments that he must know a lot. Jai Shilling continues, saying that although Dao Ma was an unknown teenager from the countryside, his skills and guts helped him fight in the war, also because he read the manga. After Sui was unified, he was promoted to cavalry guard. He adds that he knows Xiao Kai was born in Chang'an. Angrily, Dao Ma grabs Jai Shilling and chokes him against the wall because he looks like a creepy twink from Roblox horror games. Jai Shilling calmly says his name is not important and that he is there to help. He reveals that he knows Dao Ma always wanted to return home during the 3 years he wandered the western regions and that he is there to fulfill that wish for him. Dao Ma lets him go, and Jai Shilling says Dao Ma will have to escort him to Chang'an. That night, Dao Ma is lost in thought when Mo comes in, pointing out his animosity towards Jai Shilling and saying that he doesn't have to escort him to Chang'an if he doesn't want to. Dao Ma says that although it doesn't make sense for a wanted criminal to escort Jai Shilling, there's a chance Jai Shilling has a secret, like having a fat bussy or something. Mo says it's a complicated, long story. Dao Ma tells him it's alright if he looks feminine enough, but on the condition that Mo will call it even for his debt. Mo agrees that it's reasonable, so Dao Ma decides to journey out the next day with Jai Shilling. The next day, as they prepare to set out, Mo gives Dao Ma fat stacks and some custom documents. Dao Ma says they won't need them since they are taking the main road. He notices 2 extra documents just as Ayuya and her escort, Anai, stroll in with their horses. Mo explains that Ayuya is old enough to see the world and asks Dao Ma to take care of her on the journey. Anai interjects, promising to protect Ayuya at all costs, but Ayuya tells her to shut the F up because literally no one asked, and she obediently apologizes. Dao Ma announces to Xiao Kai that they are heading out. Mo adds that the desert is dangerous and suggests that it's best to leave Xiao Kai in a safe place. Dao Ma insists that the safest place for Xiao Kai is with him. Ayuya urges her father to stay safe while she's gone, but he assures her that this will be the last time they will meet as the plot will forget that she has a father and tells her to enjoy her journey. The group finally sets out. As they slowly ride their horses, Xiao Kai asks Jai Shilling why he's going to Chang'an. Jai Shilling replies that the boy doesn't need to know, but Ayuya insists. Zhai Shilling explains that they will see it sooner or later. He plans to subvert the ruling power in Chang'an. Ayuya laughs, saying that a twink guy like him can't do much. Zhai Shilling says he is just a lamplighter and doesn't need to be powerful. He claims there's wrath in the people, and all he has to do is stir it up so it will burn from the central plains to all the regions, creating a new world. He asks Dao Ma if he is impressed, but Dao Ma startles his horse, causing Zhai Shilling to fall off. Dao Ma then tells Xiao Kai not to talk with insane people like Zhai Shilling because his name sounds like Bing Shilling. Xiao Kai asks why he is talking to him, and Dao Ma says stop asking so many damn questions. Zhai Shilling is not offended and concludes that Dao Ma will understand one day. A carriage barrels down the opposite road. Zhai Shilling, tired of riding, says he wants to sit in the carriage and tries to hail it to stop. But Dao Ma pulls him back and covers his mouth as the carriage passes by. After the carriage rides away, Dao Ma releases Zhai Shilling and tells Ayuya to drop her arrow, which she had already aimed to shoot. He warns that it's dangerous to seek help from strangers, especially from a carriage, as they don't know the dangers it might hold. Zhai Shilling grumbles that he wants to sit in the carriage, but Dao Ma tells him not to be lazy and to keep riding his horse. In the carriage, a lady and an old man are chained to the carriage and to the hilt of a sword held by a white-haired swordsman named Shu. The lady demands to know how much he was paid to capture them, but he doesn't answer because he doesn't speak Chinese. This makes her angry, so she starts talking about the gruesome torture he will put them through, which makes the old man in the carriage vomit. She scoffs at him and tries to seduce Shu to let her go in exchange for whatever he wants. Suddenly, Shu locks the fact in as he looks out the carriage window and sees they are surrounded by the guys from the Apocalypto movie. The driver is unaware and keeps riding. The mysterious men throw their spears at the carriage, harming the horses, destroying the wheel, and causing the whole carriage to tumble over. The driver is shocked when he sees the mysterious men. Dao Ma and his crew hear the sound of a man in agony and see a lone horse riding back. Realizing it's from the carriage, Dao Ma says they might be able to salvage it, so they ride to the edge of a cliff. There, they see the mysterious men attacking the rider, ripping out his heart, and offering it to the sky to their supposed god, their protector. They chant in a language that Ayuya doesn't understand, but Dao Ma recognizes it as Sanskrit, spoken by the Rakshasas. He tells them to observe and stay put. The men begin reaching for the carriage for the next sacrifice, but then one of the men is pulled in halfway and comes out with a brand new tattoo. The lady inside the carriage jumps out, still in chains. This doesn't scare the men as they're into men and one charges at her, but she's pulled back by her chain before the spear can hit her. Shu emerges from the carriage and prepares to fight the mysterious men, but his sword is still connected to the old man in the carriage, who is already dead. Shu forcefully rips the chain off, and the sight of blood encourages the Rakshasas. He tells them he will give them the blood they wish to see. The lady tries to negotiate for her release before he starts fighting, but he still doesn't understand Chinese. He jumps from the carriage and begins attacking the Rakshasas. The lady tells him the chain is strangling her, but it's still in Chinese, so he continues fighting. The Rakshasas are not fazed by the death of their comrades and keep attacking. The lady mocks Shu, saying the Rakshasas aren't scared of him and that if he doesn't let her go, they will both be dead. Dao Ma and his crew are still observing from above. Ayuya says she has heard that the Rakshasas can eat people, but never imagined they could use weapons. Dao Ma says they are not Rakshasas. Xiao Kai adds that he has seen Rakshasas, describing them as monsters with 4 eyes, pointed ears, fangs, and red hair like fire. Ayuya is shocked by this description. Zhai Shilling explains that the men below are worshippers of Rakshasas. He says they believe in Rakshasas and call it their protector. The believers ambush and attack people, offering them as sacrifices. They use the money robbed from their victims to buy washi powder, which is like supercharged fentanyl. Overuse of this drug leads to them gaining superpowers that any guy from Detroit can only dream of. Their minds are always abnormal, so they no longer fear death or pain. Xiao Kai says that's why they don't fear the swordsman. Ayuya raises her bow, ready to fire, saying the swordsman won't survive against them. Dao Ma tells her not to attack. She argues that they would die if they don't help, but he says they should make a deal instead. He asks Xiao Kai if he wants to sit in the carriage, and Xiao Kai eagerly agrees. Zhai Shilling also says he wants to sit, but Dao Ma tells his femboy ass to stop talking, saying he wasn't talking to him. Dao Ma hands Xiao Kai to Ayuya and tells her to wait for him. Ayuya insists on going with him. but he tells her to stay behind and look after Xiao Kai and Jai Shilling. He promises to give them a signal once he has settled everything. Ayuya is impressed by his bravery and intelligence, but Jai Shilling dismisses Dao Ma, making her aim her bow at him, ready to shoot if he says anything more. She lowers her bow, but remains worried for Dao Ma. Shu is fighting off the Rakshasas, daring them to come at him if they wish to die. When Dao Ma arrives at the scene, he activates his aimbot, throwing blades at the ones attacking Shu. He starts riding around Shu, trying to cut a deal, saying since he has a carriage and Dao Ma has a horse, they should team up. Shu, however, attacks him, and Dao Ma concludes that Shu is not the friendly type. Shu's attack dents his sword as he pushes Dao Ma away. He tells Dao Ma to mind his own business and warns that the next slash will kill Dao Ma's horse if he interferes again. Dao Ma compliments Shu's sword, but points out that it will become useless after killing 5 more people. He argues that when Shu dies, he will still take the carriage, making it a win for him and a loss for Shu. Dao Ma starts dragging one of the Rakshasas who tried to attack, saying he will go around 3 more times, and by then, Shu should decide if he wants the deal. Ayuya, watching them, is confused, but Xiao Kai believes Dao Ma has a reason. Shu kills a few Rakshasas, but he's sweating hard, and his sword has cracked. The lady tells Shu to give up and accept Dao Ma's help. Dao Ma tells Shu he has 2 rounds left. The lady urges Shu to give in, saying she doesn't want to die with him. The Rakshasas keep coming. Dao Ma has 1 more round left, and the lady yells that she accepts the deal. Dao Ma tells Shu that if he doesn't speak up, it will be a silent agreement. Shu is trying to fend off 3 men, and Dao Ma takes his silence as a yes. With a single slash, Dao Ma kills the men around Shu, adding that he has another request to make. Dao Ma kills every single man, then explains that they are going to replenish their stock inside the pass and asks where they are heading. Shu says they are going to Chang'an. Dao Ma says that's crazy because we're going the same way. Dao Ma introduces himself, and the rest of the group follows. The lady introduces herself as Yan Xinyang and thanks Dao Ma for saving them. As she walks towards Dao Ma, she trips on her chain and falls on his chest, staying there for a while, adding 10,000 aura points to Dao Ma, which makes Ayuya jealous. Dao Ma tells Shu that his other request is for him to release Yan Xinyang. Shu throws him the key without protest. Dao Ma asks Yan Xinyang why she's out in the desert. She explains that she was sold to an old man when she was young and has suffered at his hands. Recently, she tried to escape, but the old man sent Shu to chase her and bring her back. Yan Xinyang says it is just the old man's obedient dog. Shu introduces himself to them, and after exchanging pleasantries, Dao Ma asks Anai to drive the carriage, but she refuses. However, when Ayuya asks, she easily complies. Shu stares at his sword and recalls how he arrived in such a situation. He had to go to the port to see a man named Lisi. The men at the port told him to leave, saying he didn't belong there and had no right to ask to see Lisi. Shu drew his sword and pressed it against the leader's neck. The leader pretended to be scared, but was secretly directing his men to attack Shu from behind. Shu was able to take out all the men, knocking them unconscious while keeping his sword on the leader's neck. A subordinate of Lisi called out to Shu from a boat on the river, telling him that Lisi wanted to see him. Shu sheathed his sword and went to the boat. Lisi speaks with Shu, telling him that if he wants to establish himself in Chang'an, he needs to know the rules. Shu affirms that he does, and Lisi tells him that one rule is he must accept Lisi's liquor first. Lisi reveals that the real truth is that for an outsider to stand out in Chang'an, their background is important, not just their skills alone. Shu asks for more enlightenment, and Lisi explains that if he's got sauce, he can do business with them at the East Market. But if he has no sauce, he has to increase his aura points and stay in the West Market. Since Shu has no aura and no sauce, it's best that he leave, as Chang'an can't stand people with no riz. Lisi suggests that with his skills, Shu can get rich in the southern regions, but Shu reveals that he's from that region. Lisi advises that aristocrats from the northern region are hiring skilled people like him, so he will succeed there. Shu submits his sword, bowing his head, saying he wants to work in Chang'an because it's his hometown. He promises Lisi 70% of every sale when he opens his business. Lisi asks what Shu wants, as it seems he's not after fame or money. He agrees to help Shu because of his persistence. He tells Shu that normally he has to pay before accepting his liquor, but he won't take Shu's money. Instead, he asks Shu to do something for him. He explains that a prostitute named Hong Fu of the Hang Xiang mansion eloped with a fair-faced man, causing the mansion to be the mockery of the neighbors. He laughs, but then he remembers a similar incident in his own family. He tells Shu to bring them both back alive. He says if Shu wants to stand on Daxing stalls, he should keep his promises, and this being the first one. He warns Shu to be careful as Hong Fu is very smart. This is the reason Shu hunted down Yan Xingyang and chained her up to return her to the old man. As they all ride in the carriage, Yan Xingyang keeps staring at Dao Ma, which annoys Ayuya. Ayuya asks why she is staring at him so much. Yan Xingyang explains that Dao Ma looks like the man she saw in a bounty poster, as well as the kid. She heard he killed an official, and his bounty is over 50,000 V-bucks. So many people are pursuing him to get the money for themselves. She was trying to instigate Shu against him. Dao Ma tells Shu that he can tie her up, which scares her, but Shu refuses, saying he doesn't want to get involved in their business. Meanwhile, in the city of Zhangai, Pei Xingyan reports to his master, Minister Pei, that the masters of the 5 families have arrived, and he's settled them in. Minister Pei thanks him for his work. Yan asks his master why he's seeking help to kill Zhai Shilang, and even suggests he be given 10 elite soldiers, and in half a month he will bring Zhai Shilang's head. The master explains that it's more complicated than that. Interfering with the desert people and stirring problems in the past could lead to unnecessary conflicts, so Xingyan shouldn't make any hasty decisions. Xingyan asks if it means Zhai Shilang is bait to lure out the person helping him. Minister Pei says some situations require more than skill and Xingyan should always consider when it's best to hide his sword and act with his brain. He suggests they go greet their guests. The 5 masters are present: Master Yuji, Master Lai, Master Peiwu, Master Mo, and Master Yu Zian. The minister tells them that they are gathered because the matter is an urgent one. Minister Pei starts by lord-dumping everything he's been doing for the past 7 years, and thanks them on behalf of the imperial court for their role in the city's flourishing and the apprehension of fugitives. He presents them with a small gift as a token of appreciation, which astonishes the masters as the box is filled with gold silk used only by the imperial court of the Central Plains. Mo speaks up, saying their role in the city's commerce and catching fugitives is just their normal business that doesn't require such expensive gifts, and asks what's the real deal. Pei states that they should all submit to the imperial court. He adds that the 500 gold silks are just a small token. If they comply, all the businesses in Zhangai will not have to pay any taxes anymore. Instead, they will triple the rent for single mothers, and also, the emperor will make them 5 vassal states. He offers them tea, indicating they should drink it if they agree with him. Mo refuses, explaining their ancestors' history of resilience and independence against the enemies who tried to trample them so he wouldn't soil the ancestors' efforts. Xingyan moves to him, telling him to drink the tea, but Mo refuses, and his soldiers prepare to draw their swords. Xingyan's soldiers do the same. Mo firmly states he won't take the tea since he only drinks G fuel, and leaves. Mo returns to his people who await him after hearing all that transpired. He tells them that due to the disagreement with other families, someone has to pay for their lives and blood. Some of the men have been with him for a long time while others just joined, but as of now, they are fired from the Mo family. The men protest, saying they will stay and fight the danger, but Mo reminds them not to forget their own families because they're fodder characters and can't respond. He instructs them to turn in their income for the day and go back to their families. The men ask him to flee with them, but Mo declines, stating he's old and can't run. He decides the marketplace will be his burial ground, and they shouldn't worry about him. The men weep, realizing they can't save him. The lady soldiers meet with Mo. He asks why they haven't left. They explain they have no other place to go as they were once slaves bought by masters as toys, but Mo saved them, so the marketplace is the only home they know. They bow, asking to serve him in his final moments. They pray with him as other families' masters and soldiers approach. When the men reach the gate, they halt, confused as to why it's open and no rebellion against them. He Yixuan goes to confront Mo, and the lady soldiers prepare their swords to protect their chief. Yixuan demands to know where Zhai Shilang is hidden. Mo questions if he took the deal, and Yixuan accuses Mo's old generation of using neutral credits and old rules to live in peace, claiming their time is over. He demands Mo to hand over Zhai Shilang, as he doesn't want his wife to wait for a long time. Mo retorts that Ayuya will never be his wife and questions what Yixuan thinks the reason is he ruined their engagement. Yixuan says it's because his family was weak at the time. But now they no longer are families, so he can have his revenge. He says Minister Pei promised him that if he takes down Jai Shilling, they will provide him with the biggest support and help him in merging the families. Yixuan asks Mo why he couldn't see the benefit of the alliance. Mo states he's the foolish one for believing in it, angering Yixuan, who threatens to take Ayuya by force unless Mo gives her to him or he takes Mo away from Ayuya. Mo questions if he wants Ayuya to experience the pain of losing her father like he did. Yixuan recalls losing his father. He was talking to him on his deathbed, asking for advice as their tribe was being trampled on and his wedding with Ayuya was called off. Yixuan didn't know what to do and begged his father for guidance. His father struggled, muttering Yixuan's name, but instead of offering advice, he pisses the bed and starts speaking Minecraft villager. Disgusted and desperate, Yixuan tearfully choked his father to death, telling him, "Your time is up. My time is now." This is all because Yixuan visited a prophetess as a teenager and asked if he would become a great man. She foretold that he would wear a shiny crown, with his wife placing feathers on it. His friends and young Ayuya waited outside the cave, curious about the prophecy. He told them it was clear but kept it secret, believing that revealing it would prevent it from coming true. He walked past them proudly. Young Ayuya says her father said that future predictions depend on one's choices and if the game has an autosave feature enabled. His prophecy will come true if he can do a quick save and quick load ability, but Yixuan dismisses it, claiming that he doesn't need them and will just wing it because he knows Ayuya will be his wife anyways. Later, Yixuan and his men wait in an abandoned inn. His men alert him that Dao Ma and his crew are heading toward the building. Dao Ma decides they will rest there for the night. Ayuya notes the place looks run down and orders a Nai to find a spot for the carriage. Jai Shilling complains about the conditions, demanding a shower. Dao Ma mocks him, saying he should find it himself and joking that the Rakshasas might eat him, which scares Jai Shilling. Dao Ma notices footprints in the sand, suspecting someone is already inside. He jokes about hoping they're beautiful girls. Xiao Kai calls out, saying they are businessmen needing a place to sleep and asking if anyone is inside. When no one answers, Dao Ma tells Xiao Kai to step behind him, sensing trouble. The doors open, revealing Feifei, Yixuan's huge guard, holding a box. Ayuya is frightened seeing Yixuan, who claims he's there to celebrate taking her as his wife. Feifei approaches and dumps the box's contents on the ground. Absolute jump scare because that's her father's head. Yixuan says their marriage has been agreed upon by her father, who really can't say no at this point. Dao Ma is furious, and Ayuya is in disbelief. Ayuya recalls traveling with her father. She complained about being tired of sitting on the horse and asked to switch places, but her father refused. Even though his feet were bleeding from walking, he said they had to follow the rules. Ayuya argued that no one was watching them, but her father insisted they must still abide by the rules. He explained he could only go back barefoot according to the rules to call off the marriage. Ayuya stopped the horse, crying, saying she would just return and get married because their journey was still 2 more days, and at this rate, his bleeding feet would become infected. Mo explained to his daughter that Yixuan had changed. Although everyone thought his father died of illness, Mo saw Yixuan strangle his own father with his own hands, because he saw it first from this recap. This shocked Ayuya, who isn't subscribed to our channel. Mo said a man who could do such a thing for his ambition might do anything to her if they were married. He wouldn't agree to her marriage even after his death. He said he could endure being called untrustworthy, but he couldn't let her lifetime of happiness be taken away just to improve their family's reputation through the marriage. He would rather their family perish. He took her hand, saying she was his only daughter and his only family, and he would protect her. He asked her to sing Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar for him as they continued their journey. He smiled, saying he loved to see her singing. Now, Ayuya cries as she holds her father's chopped off head in her hands, hugging it tightly, wailing loudly because her father is gone, and he will never hear her sing Meet the Grahams. Xiao Kai joins her in crying, while Yan Xinyan consoles him. Dao Ma, on the other hand, sees red. Yixuan steps out with his men, asking which one of them is Jai Shilling. He tells his guard Feifei to bring Ayuya to him and get rid of the rest. The guard moves toward Ayuya. Anai, who is holding her, prepares her weapon to protect her, but Dao Ma jumps in, using his new Ashes of War from Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, cutting off his hands and causing him to scream in agony. Dao Ma continues to perform his full combo without stopping. He stabs the guard in the stomach. The guard tries to pull out the sword, But Dao Ma succeeds in the quick-time event and flawlessly performs a flawless victory. Brutality. Dao Ma turns to Yixuan's men, his eyes all red, but they aren't fazed. He picks up his sword bag and moves toward them, counting their number. There are 6 in total. He lays down the weapon bag and dares them to step up. Yixuan mocks Dao Ma, calling him a slave Mo-bot who is clearing his debt by doing Mo's dirty work. Yixuan taunts that Dao Ma without a master is just a wild dog and should know his place, refusing to let him look down on the Yixuan family. Suddenly, the guard stands up and tries to grab Dao Ma. Everyone is shocked, but when the dust clears, Dao Ma has pinned the guard's head down with an axe and proceeds to chop it off like he's Chef Gordon Ramsay. He then tosses the head to one of Yixuan's men, who catches it. Dao Ma tells them it's 2-0. The man steps up, saying the guard is big, but defeating him isn't much of a skill. He tells Yixuan he will trade 1,000 sheep if he lets him have Dao Ma. He introduces himself as Niuchuo, the second son blah blah blah. He's gonna die anyway, and offers Dao Ma a place in the Yuji family if he serves him faithfully. Dao Ma bends down to pick a weapon, settling on a sword and pays Niuchuo no heed. Niuchuo insists it's the best offer since Mo and his family are dead, so Dao Ma doesn't need to serve an outsider. Dao Ma, with the sword and axe in hand, charges at Niuchuo, who blocks the sword. Dao Ma tells Niuchuo that Mo wasn't his master or a stranger, but one of them. They start dueling, with Niuchuo swinging his weapon, a rope with a metal sharp ball at the end. Dao Ma avoids the attack, but then Niuchuo wraps the rope around his wrist, spins him around, and slams him to the ground. 4 other men and a wolf jump to attack him. Xiao Kai calls out, crying for him. Dao Ma shields himself from the weapons with his axe while the wolf bites his hand, but he doesn't stop. He yells loudly, sending the men and the wolf flying while he jumps back close to his crew. Xiao Kai is relieved that he's okay. Niuchuo tells Dao Ma to stop struggling, hand over Zhai Shilling, and become his servant. As the men charge, Dao Ma instructs Xiao Kai to close his eyes and begins fighting them off. Niuchuo grabs Dao Ma's wrist with the rope and swings him around, about to slam him to the ground. One of the men runs to attack Dao Ma, but he kicks that one away and lands on his feet. Another throws a boomerang sickle, which Dao Ma catches with his sword to avoid being hit, but this allows Wululu to strangle him. Using Wululu's belly as leverage, Dao Ma distances himself and chops off Wululu's hand in an attempt to free himself. Just as one of the men is about to jump him from behind, Shu intervenes, cutting that man in half and saving Dao Ma. Shu uses Dao Ma's shoulder as a platform to stand on. Mirror targets Shu, urging Wululu to hold on to Dao Ma as she throws her blade at them, but Shu avoids the blade, jumps off Dao Ma's back, and slices some of Wululu's fingers, freeing Dao Ma. Dao Ma jumps back, and Xiao Kai runs to him, crying and saying he thought he would die. Dao Ma smiles, reassuring him that he can't die yet. Dao Ma faces Shu and tells Shu not to meddle in his business, but Shu insists it's his business too. Yixuan demands to know if Shu is Zhai Shilling, but Shu doesn't answer. Zhai Shilling begins laughing, mocking Yixuan for wanting to capture him without even knowing who he is. He taunts Yixuan, suggesting Minister Pei must have told him to hand over Zhai Shilling's head as a tribute. Zhai Shilling creates a misty illusion as he explains that if Yixuan pays a tribute in the form of a horse, he will get silk worth 10 times more in return. So their alliance is one in which the Sui imperial court earns a reputation while the vassal state earns money. Once the road to the western region is connected, merchants can sell more goods to different parts of the Central Plains directly, obtaining more wealth and power. They only have to kill Zhai Shilling, who is on the run, within their turf. He laughs, calling them brainless fools for not knowing who Zhai Shilling is or why the imperial court is after him. He pats Ayuya, consoling her, and says that only Chief Mo understands that Zhai Shilling is a decoy used by Minister Pei to connect to the western regions. Yixuan says he doesn't believe in the imperial court or the alliance, knowing they are both using each other and the imperial court treats them as pawns, but Zhai Shilling cuts him off by laughing. Zhai Shilling asks Yixuan if he killed his father and usurped the throne just to be someone else's pawn. He says that once the 5 families unite, they can compete with a country, but if they collapse, they are worthless. Since he and the other masters drank the tea Minister Pei offered, the 5 families have been doomed. The road they assume leads to wealth is leading to death instead. Yixuan insists that's a lie. He explains that his father fell from a horse and hurt his waist, and he took care of him for 3 years. He also mentions that Chief Mo didn't listen to him when he tried to convince him to join their alliance. Both men were old and weak, and they didn't understand the new generation. Jai Shilling laughs and casts his smoky illusion. He reveals the prophecy that one day Yixuan will wear a dazzling crown, and Yixuan must be thinking seizing Jai Shilling is supposed to provide that opportunity. Jai Shilling reveals Minister Pei's words to Yixuan, saying that when a young leader who is assertive and passionate takes charge, it will be a huge advantage. His family will unite the other families, and the imperial court will fully support him, which shocks Yixuan, causing him to fall to the ground. Niuchuo realizes that Minister Pei is sly and tells the other families the same thing. He starts to wonder who Jai Shilling is. Jai Shilling reveals he's someone who knows about the past and can predict the future. He calls himself a prophet who lights the holy fire to get rid of darkness, a saint who treats everyone equally. However, he's not just Jai Shilling. Jai Shilling can be a nobleman living a comfortable life, a slave, a farmer, and a beggar. Jai Shilling is nobody, but everyone can be Jai Shilling. Yixuan refuses to accept this, shooting an arrow at Jai Shilling, which Shu blocks with his sword scabbard. Yixuan fires more arrows at once, which Dao Ma knocks away with his cloak. Zhu then runs towards Yixuan, who is still raging as he fires more arrows at them. One arrow shatters Zhu's sword, but Dao Ma quickly kicks Yixuan away. He then tosses a sword to Yixuan, saying he's lending it to him, and if he ruins it, he will have to pay for it. Niuchuo laughs at Yixuan, calling everyone ignorant and announcing he will no longer join the fight. He tells Yixuan that he's leaving and they can discuss how to share Mo's turf when he returns. Ayuya cries, realizing they are treating her father's land as a piece of cake to be divided. As Niuchuo walks away, Dao Ma stops him, asking if he released him. One of Niuchuo's men rushes at them, but Dao Ma and Shu cut off the man's arms and stab him together, using him as a shield against Niuchuo's weapon. Dao Ma leaps into the air, declaring that Niuchuo must pay his debt. Just as he is about to slash Niuchuo, an arrow pierces Niuchuo's throat. Ayuya had shot the arrow, standing up for herself, declaring that no one of them who hurt her family would be spared. Ayuya says her father always said the 5 families shared the same bloodline, and she had treated them as family. No matter how angry she was, she never argued with them. But now, she declares that if they kneel and beg, she will grant them a painless death. Yixuan remains unfazed, saying he will abide by his own rule. He declares he will be the fated ruler he's meant to be, and Ayuya will be his fated wife, and she will join him in seeing their families surpass everyone and dominate the people. Niuchuo crawls up to Yixuan, asking for help, but Yixuan stabs him, calling him a traitor. He then asks Mir if she will betray him. She offers her loyalty, saying her love for him has never changed, and Wululu also swears his loyalty. Ayuya demands that Yixuan kneel and beg, but he stands tall, saying she should embrace her fate and accept him. She releases an arrow at him, but he stops it with his hands, declaring he won't kneel before her. At that moment, they notice an army of soldiers approaching. Yixuan tells them that the soldiers will be the ones to kneel instead. The other masters arrive with their armies, and Master Lai and Master Yuji are furious that their sons are dead while Mo's daughter is still alive, blaming Yixuan for all of it. They are enraged and order their men to attack. The battle begins, and Dao Ma calls Xiao Kai to duck as a horse charges toward him. Luckily, Yan Xiang takes down the rider, saving Xiao Kai and holding Dao Ma's bag. One of the men targets Jai Shilling, but Dao Ma saves him by cutting the horse's leg and tripping the soldier. He drags Jai Shilling and places Xiao Kai on his back, telling him to hold on. Dao Ma then leads the way, slashing through soldiers to clear a path. Xiao Kai mentions his blade and horse, thinking Dao Ma must remember his mother now. Nearby, a soldier aims at Dao Ma, but Shu slashes him down and climbs onto the horse. Anai holds Ayuya back, trying to keep her safe. Dao Ma tells him to get her to safety. Ayuya, still in a rage, tries to shoot an arrow at Yixuan, but it hits a shield held by Wululu. Yixuan kills a soldier, mounts his horse, and declares they are witnessing the birth of a king, with the strong wind testifying to it. Ayuya still wants his blood, while Anai tries to get her to the carriage safely. As a man gets close to attacking them, Shu rides in and cuts him down, along with other attackers. Dao Ma tells them to get in the carriage, and they all enter, but Xiao Kai notes that Shu is missing. Master Pu orders his men to protect his children, Mai and Wululu. Mai tries to shoot the driver of Dao Ma's carriage, but Yan Xiang ambushes her, placing a dagger at her neck. As their carriage comes around, they force her inside, continuing to ride away while soldiers chase them. Yan Xiang threatens Mai to tell her people to protect the carriage, but she yells at them to help her. Master Pu realizes Mai is on the carriage, so he orders his men to chase after it and bring her back, avoiding the areas of the Yuji and Lai factions. A fierce sandstorm looms ahead, while some soldiers get caught in the crossfire of flying arrows. The soldiers stop chasing as the sandstorm intensifies, while Dao Ma and his crew charge in. Master Pu cries out for his daughter, who is taken hostage. Yixuan swears to bring Ayuya back. They ride into the fierce sandstorm, the wind so strong that the carriage roof blows off. Yan Xiang holds Mir hostage, but she laughs at Ayuya, accusing her of acting innocent while being aloof. As Mir tries to get closer, Yan Xiang presses the blade tighter against her, warning her to stay put. Mir declares they will all die in the storm, saying she's not afraid of death, but Ayuya is. Yan Xiang punches her in the face to silence her, telling her to keep quiet. Despite this, Mir keeps talking, taunting Ayuya with details about her father's death. Yan Xiang pins Mir down, telling Ayuya not to let it get to her, and promising they can deal with Mir after they survive the storm. Mir continues mocking, describing how Ayuya's father begged for mercy, how the female guards were abused before being killed, and how Yixuan delivered the final blow while her father cried. Yan Xiang hits Mir with the dagger's hilt, but Mir keeps insulting Ayuya's father's bravery. Finally, Ayuya, overwhelmed with rage, grabs the dagger from Yan Xiang and slits Mir's throat. Even as she dies, Mir smiles, happy to have served Yixuan. Ayuya, now determined, declares she won't kneel to anyone, and the Mo family legacy will not die. She says she will only perish after killing all her enemies. Jumping from the carriage onto a horse, she instructs Anai to bury her in a good place if she dies. She cuts the horse's rope, preparing to ride away, telling Anai that after that, he can be free. Dao Ma grabs her hand, pleading with her not to go, but she kisses him, freeing his hand and wishing him well. She leaves behind her bracelet as a token. Anai isn't willing to leave her. He frees a horse and chases after Ayuya. Shu watches, wondering what to do. Xiao Kai asks about Ayuya, but Shu tells him to stay inside the carriage. Dao Ma continues to drive, deep in thought about what to do next. Meanwhile, the soldiers are being sucked into the sandstorm, running away in fear. One of the men believes it's a divine punishment for extinguishing the Mo family's sacred fire. The master of the Yuji clan tells his men not to fear, saying as long as they don't fear heaven and earth, they will prevail because heaven will bless them. He decides they must face the storm head-on, seeing it as a test of their faith where only those with steadfast faith will survive. He prays to his god, Ahula, asking for safe passage through the sandstorm. Suddenly, an arrow pierces his mouth, and he falls. Confusion erupts among the soldiers as arrows continue to strike them from the sandstorm. Ayuya emerges, praying to Ahula to send the men to face heaven's judgment for their wicked deeds against her family. She calls herself the Great Sandstorm, and the men believe she's a witch who summoned the sandstorm. They flee from her wrath as she chases after them, shooting arrows at them. She hurls her horse into the air, crushing a soldier while landing between two soldiers, dodging their attacks and stabbing one of them. She fights like a crazed warrior, slashing through the enemy ranks. One soldier tries to shoot her with a bow, but she gets close and stabs him, then takes his arrow bag. She runs up a cliff as the rest of the soldiers keep running away. She sets her eyes on the Lai clan chief, who tries to protect himself by ordering his men to shield him. But his men desert him, terrified of Ayuya. She releases an arrow, striking him in the mouth, and he falls off his horse. Ayuya continues her pursuit, looking for her next target, Yixuan. Anai continues to chase after Ayuya, but she and her horse are both carried away by the sandstorm. Ayuya manages to land safely on the ground, recalling Mo's words about her responsibility to protect Ayuya. With determination, she stands and vows to fulfill her duty. Ayuya charges at the running soldiers, declaring her intention to personally cut off Yixuan's head. She leads her horse to attack him, but Yixuan faces her with an arrow aimed at her, claiming that everything she has belongs to him. The arrow hits her horse while she manages to cut off Yixuan's bandana, crashing with her horse in the process. Despite this, she stands with her blade in hand, refusing to give up and reciting her prayers. The storm calms down, and the Pu clan arrives, asking for Mir. Yixuan tells Ayuya to stop fighting and give up, pointing out her injuries. However, Ayuya, fueled by determination and rage, continues to fight, unaware of her wounds. The Pu chief orders his men to catch her, surrounding her. Ayuya's eyes are fixed on Yixuan, but because she's weak and surrounded, she closes her eyes, giving up. Suddenly, she hears screaming and realizes Anai has ridden in on a horse to carry her away from the enemy, wiping out soldiers in their path. Anai tells her she kept her promise to protect her. They reach the edge of a cliff, and without thinking, Annie jumps down with her horse, which causes them to tumble down the cliff together, but Anai shields Ayuya with her body. Chief Piu orders his men to capture them, and Yixuan confronts him for daring to lay a hand on Ayuya, claiming she is his woman. Piu is furious. He asks if Yixuan doesn't care about Mira's death, and why is he focused on Ayuya. He tells Yixuan that he will have to get rid of him if he opposes, and his men aim at Yixuan. But suddenly, some soldiers ride in, attacking and taking out Piu's men. The huge soldier draws near and bashes Piu's head with a large club. Annie holds Ayuya behind a cliff, trying to wake her up, while the He-Yi clan clashes with the Turpan mercenaries in the valley. Annie remembers when Ayuya grumbled about being ordered to follow her to Chang'an by her father. Determined to fulfill Ayuya's dream, Annie grabs a horse running towards them, recalling Ayuya's smile at the thought of exploring the world in Chang'an. She places Ayuya on the horse as Yixuan and his men draw near, telling Ayuya she deserves all the happiness, the finest wine, the best places, and her beloved Dao Ma who awaits her in Chang'an. Annie hits the horse, urging it to run as Yixuan's men try to catch up. Ayuya boasts that the women of Chang'an will be jealous of her because she's the most beautiful. But Ayuya remembers her promise to always be by Annie's side, and she cries for her friend who was killed by Yixuan's men. Yixuan orders his special guard to go after Ayuya and bring her back no matter what, as that day is his coronation ceremony and wedding. Meanwhile, Dao Ma recalls the moment when he was still an imperial soldier. Zhao Kai had just born, but the imperial army had suffered a heavy loss. After their defeat, he instructs the surviving guard to report to the imperial capital that everyone else perished. He flees with Zhao Kai, but when he wakes up, he hears the Mo guard discussing feeding him to the dogs since he's barely alive. That's the moment when he became in debt with old Mo. He then sees Mo, who offers him shelter, but when he looks at Zhao Kai, he sees Mo's head, and then he remembers Yixuan, holding Mo's head at his feet. Finally waking up from the dream, he looks ahead and sees the overturned carriage. Recalling Ayuya's goodbye kiss, he rushes to the carriage to look for Zhao Kai, trying to dig through the sand. Zhao Kai calls out to him from the other side, lying on the ground with Jai Shilang. Dao Ma checks him for injuries, but Zhao Kai asks if Ayuya and Annie will ever come back. Dao Ma keeps checking on him, but Zhao Kai pushes his hand away in anger, demanding to know if they will go back to save Ayuya and Annie, as they had all agreed to go to Chang'an together. Sadly, Dao Ma tells him that Ayuya is gone, which makes Zhao Kai cry. Their moment is interrupted when Shu captures Yan Xinyang and rides towards them. He tells Dao Ma they will be padding their way there. Yan Xinyang falls from the horse, complaining that she wasn't planning to run. She urges Dao Ma to help her, claiming that Shu is trafficking women and reminding him that she had saved Zhao Kai, saying he should show gratitude to her. Dao Ma looks at Jai Shilang and pulls him by his head from the ground, asking him to speak about his relationship with Mo. Jai Shilang explains that he's known Mo for a long time, along with Dao Ma. He recounts a rebellion 7 years ago in Zizhu, where the people rose against exploitation and oppression. The court sent elite troops to suppress the rebellion, led by the Huayan group. Jai Shilang reveals that the Huayan group's message was to act for heaven and preach peace in a world where flowers bloom everywhere. However, the aristocrats in the court labeled them as rebels, leading to the massacre of the city by the imperial cavalry. Jai Shilang vividly remembers the night a massive fire broke out in Zizhu city, causing chaos and panic as people tried to escape the flames. Corpses littered the streets, and rivers of blood flowed, with 150,000 people brutally slaughtered. It was during this chaos that Jai Shilang first saw Dao Ma, who was searching for the master amidst the chaos with his fellow members of the imperial cavalry. Dao Ma's expression showed fatigue and doubt as he covered the face of a dead woman with his cloak. Jai Shilang recalls that Dao Ma never found the master's mind amidst the chaos. Yan Xinyang interjects, sharing a different version of events she heard, claiming it was a banditry led by Lai Yinglan, who was eventually exterminated by the imperial capital. His body was hung at the gate of Daxing City, despised by thousands. However, Jai Shilang counters that just because she saw Lai Yinglan's body doesn't mean it's the truth, and just because she didn't see the massacre doesn't mean it didn't happen. He explains that the court couldn't completely cover up the incident, so they fabricated a story of bandits raiding the city and being suppressed by the military, using Lai Yinglin as a scapegoat. The real leader of the Huaiyan group survived, emerging from the mass of corpses and sitting under a tree for 7 days and nights until his white robe turned red. It was then he decided to become Jai Shilling. To verify his thoughts, he decided to go to Changju. Dao Ma dismisses Jai Shilling's words as utter nonsense, accusing him of inciting innocent people to rebel, resulting in their deaths while he survives and continues to live a wretched life. He questions the justice in Jai Shilling's actions, accusing him of secretly desiring the throne despite claiming to fight for the people. Drawing his sword, Dao Ma refuses to listen to Jai Shilling any longer, blaming him for Mo's death while trying to protect him. Jai Shilling responds calmly, stating that if killing him will ease Mo's hatred, then Dao Ma can proceed. However, Shu intervenes, placing his sword at Dao Ma's neck and urging him to let Jai Shilling finish. Jai Shilling reveals his true motive, explaining that he wants to overthrow the court not for selfish desires but to bring about change. He reveals his leprosy-infected body, explaining that he doesn't have much time to live. He assures them that his condition is not contagious and explains that Mo helped him obtain a prescription in Tianzhu 7 years ago to suppress the decay. Jai Shilling had proposed to Mo to hand him over to the court to gain their support and unite the 5 families for wealth and prosperity. Despite Mo's reluctance, Jai Shilling convinced him by explaining that whether he hands him over or not, the court will find a way to destroy the families. Mo decided to arrange protectors to escort Jai Shilling to Chang'an, hoping that Ayuya would follow him, join him ignite the sacred fire in the people, and eventually return to rebuild their family, thus sowing the seed for their future prosperity. After hearing Jai Shilling's story, Dao Ma retrieves his sword and returns to the carriage, where he begins digging a hole. Xiao Kai approaches him, and Dao Ma places Mo's head in the hole, covering it. He then tells Xiao Kai that they are turning back to find Ayuya, dead or alive, and they will bring her back. Meanwhile, Ayuya's horse continues to run away, pursued by Yixuan's men intent on capturing her. The horse is halted by a man on another horse, who turns out to be Xianyan, the guard of Minister Pei. Xianyan questions why they are chasing an injured girl, but Yixuan's men remain determined. Xianyan swiftly dispatches one of the soldiers with his club and carries Ayuya on his horse. He introduces himself as the Deputy General of the Sui Empire and demands to know who they are working for. Yixuan steps forward, claiming they are his men, and requests that Xianyan accompany him for a discussion. Xianyan is hesitant, but agrees to take care of the injured lady until she regains consciousness. Yixuan warns Xianyan not to take away his property and threatens consequences if he does. As Yixuan's soldiers prepare to attack, Xianyan rebukes them, reminding them of his position as an officer of the imperial court. He questions Yixuan about capturing Jai Shilling as ordered by the court, which infuriates Yixuan, who vows to capture Jai Shilling and demands Xianyan's compliance until then. Yixuan takes Xianyan to his camp where Ayuya comes around, but he tells her to keep quiet for her safety. Ayuya sees Yixuan but can't attack him, only muttering his name with anger and hatred. In the camp, the other clan members who refuse to bow are being killed by Yixuan's soldiers. Xianyan also sees Yixuan's special mercenaries, the Tacharians, who bow to him in a way that Xianyan suggests doesn't align with their Buddhist beliefs. Yixuan remarks that Sui and its people have their beliefs, teaching morality among its citizens but winning by killing and invasion. However, he's upset that Xianyan is holding his bride in his arms and not returning her. Ayuya clings tightly to Xianyan, not wanting to go to Yixuan. Xianyan dismounts from his horse with Ayuya and approaches Yixuan, saying he shouldn't be negotiating with him because he hasn't caught Jai Shilling but is busy making himself a king and getting married to fulfill his desires. He mentions that the imperial court doesn't consider Yixuan trustworthy. Xianyan takes Ayuya into a tent and tells Yixuan not to show his face inside unless he has Jai Shilling's head, even telling him to feed his horse. Yixuan is furious and yells at the Tacharians that the coronation ceremony will happen immediately to show them who is in charge. Xianyan heats a blade and approaches Ayuya, telling her that it will hurt badly, but she has to bear it. She refuses, telling him to get away from her, and spits on his face, accusing him of being complicit in her father's death and the ruin of her home. He lets her go and apologizes if he was rude, explaining that leaving the arrows in her would be life-threatening. She warns him not to mention her father's name and proceeds to treat herself, pulling out the arrows despite the pain. When she's done, she collapses from the pain, but Xian Yan catches her. She vows to kill Yixuan and all who hurt her family. The soldiers at the tent leave as the coronation ceremony is starting, so the tent isn't guarded. Dao Ma and Shu watch from a cliff. Dao Ma tells Shu that it's their chance to kill Xian Yan and rescue Ayuya at all costs, and they both descend the cliff. Yixuan talks to the remaining soldiers of the other clans, saying by rules he's supposed to kill them along with their masters, but he's a forgiving person. He asks them to kneel before him. One tries to object, but his head is smashed by the Tacharian mercenary. Another tries to speak and his head is crushed too. The rest have no choice but to give in and obey him, kneeling to him as their king. Yixuan smiles, saying he's finally accomplished what his father couldn't and no one in Sui can stop him. He then starts heading towards the tent, telling Xian Yan to release Ayuya. Xian Yan tells Ayuya that as a member of the imperial court, he's not supposed to interfere, but out of respect for her father, he will make sure that her enemies don't humiliate her and that Mo's family bloodline doesn't end there. Xian Yan meets them outside, and Yixuan asks if he chose to fight against him. Xian Yan says that Yixuan already chose to fight against the imperial court first. Xian Yan's horse is brought to Yixuan, who draws out a sword and beheads the horse, saying Xian Yan won't be able to return now. Then the soldiers start surrounding him. Xian Yan is unfazed, and as they all swarm at him, he smashes them with his clubs. From every angle, they try to attack him, and a swing of his club smashes them into two. Yixuan watches in shock and the men fear too, but some still try to take him down, and he easily wipes them out. Dao Ma and Shu are still on standby as they watch this monster annihilate half the camp. Yuxian yells at the soldiers not to back down, as together they can defeat Xian Yan. He fires an arrow which hits Xian Yan in the chest, and the soldiers start firing arrows at him, surrounding him. Xian Yan deflects some, but he's hit by the ones he couldn't see coming. Xian Yan throws his club at some of the men, which acts as a boomerang, obliterating them. Then he uses one of the corpses as a shield from the other arrows, but one man slices him in the back. He takes his axe and cuts that one in half. Then two more charges at him, but with his huge size, he picks them both up like rag dolls and flings them onto the ground. One approaches him with a horse, but he easily exterminates him too. One by one, Xian Yan floors all the soldiers with his axe and his blows, but one gets close enough and slashes his hand. He slams that one's head into the ground, and the others start retreating. The soldiers with Yuxian are scared, and one calls him a reincarnation of King Kong and is smacked in the face by Yuxian. A falcon flies down and lands on Arhart's hand, leader of the Tacharian mercenary, delivering a message which the mercenary reads. Yuxian orders the Tacharian to go fight, telling Arhart to attack. Arhart orders his men to begin the formation, and they all rush towards Xian Yan, who is ready to die but is surprised that the Tacharian are surrounding him instead. Yuxian is angry at this betrayal, saying he paid for their service so they should be loyal to him. But Arhart says what he paid is not enough for him to be ordering them to kill people. Yuxian is so enraged he orders his men to surround them and take them down, promising 100 coins for each Tacharian head they bring and more rewards if they kill them all. The soldiers, hyped about the reward, charge at the Tacharians, firing arrows at them, which the Tacharians block with their shields. They then go after the soldiers who try to attack them with swords, killing them with spears and trampling on them. The whole camp scatters as soldiers run around in all directions to save their own lives as the Tacharians stamp and wipe them out with their spears. Yuxian yells at the men to regroup and fight together, ordering someone to get his horse. But no one is listening. Soon all the horses at the stable start running towards them, trampling the soldiers on their way. The stables were set on fire, which was done by Shu and Dao Ma, who are riding on horses and killing the soldiers they see. Yuxian is furious as he watches his men defeated and realizes his title of king couldn't even save him. The Tacharians don't even attack Shu and Dao Ma. Arhart says they are not their enemies and they should just keep the formation and protect Xian Yan. The chaos unfolds in front of Yuxian as he watches his men being killed and trampled on. He wonders where it went wrong as he thought he had control of everything. In complete shock, he sees Dao Ma heading towards him, but is saved by a herd of horses passing between them. He falls to the ground and begins crawling to Ayuya's tent, recalling the prophetess's words about wearing a dazzling crown and his wife adorning his crown with 5 feathers. He rushes to the tent, calling for Ayuya, but as he enters, he is stabbed in the chest by Ayuya. He pulls her hand and the knife away, but she fights against him, saying she will kill him. He throws her to the floor and pins her down, insisting that she is his and no one can take her away. Despite her attempts to stab him, he knocks the knife away, claiming that it's fate for them to be together and unite the 5 families. With tears in his eyes, he continues choking Ayuya until she throws sand in his face, allowing her to reach for an arrow and stab him through the neck, telling him to go to hell. He squirms around, trying to remove the arrow, but accidentally hits a lamp, causing fire to fall on his head and the tent to catch fire. As he manages to make it outside, the fire on his head subsides, but his face and hair are already burnt. He looks up to see Dao Ma standing in front of him, who kicks him to the ground and steps on his head, ready to end him. However, Ayuya intervenes, saying she will be the one to judge him. She crawls towards them and, with the help of Dao Ma, places Yuxian in front of her and stabs him with the arrows. In the end, he has 5 arrows with feather ends on his head, completing the prophecy. The battle is over, and Dao Ma comforts Ayuya, who asks him where her father is buried. Dao Ma explains that he was buried in a shallow grave on a slope without a tombstone, but Ayuya doesn't mind because she believes her father has become one with the sand of the desert. She decides she won't go to Chang'an anymore and will stay in the desert, but Dao Ma insists it's too dangerous and he has a responsibility to keep her safe. However, Ayuya asserts that her father is dead, so his duty is over, and she will decide her path from now on. Arhart approaches Ayuya, removes his helmet, revealing his face, and suggests that she join their mercenary group since the Sui army is approaching and plundering is about to begin. Ayuya decides to join their group, wanting to change the desert and become stronger. She bids farewell to Dao Ma, telling him to leave too, as they will meet again. Xiao Kai asks why Ayuya didn't join them, and Dao Ma explains it's because she has more important things to take care of at home. Xiao Kai wonders if they will come back, and Dao Ma sadly reflects that even if they return, the desert won't be familiar to them anymore because it was never their place, they were just passing through. Meanwhile, Shu frees Yan Xingyang and offers her boots so she won't walk around barefoot. Yan Xingyang decides to stick with them and climbs onto Zhai Shilang's horse as they all set out for their next destination. Watch this next video. See you on the next one.